The traffic that is coming now, either direct or AI referral traffic, is converting at 6x what it did
Mhm.
18 months ago. So that, I mean, I'll take the 6x. If I've lost 30%, but my traffic that's coming is converting at 6x more than what that was, just do the math. The brands that are increasing their visibility in AI searches are going to be more profitable, they're going to have more customers, and they're going to grow faster. So there's your revenue impact that you can tell your CFO when they complain about the traffic drop off.
Hey, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for all of our episodes and podcasts. As you know, I am the author of The AI Marketing Machine, and you can find out more information on that book at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today, I'm interviewing Leah Nurik, and she is the CEO of Brandi AI. And so let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an expert in AEO and GEO, and we're going to find out exactly what those mean here in a minute. And of course, content optimization and a content optimization platform recognized as one of the most intelligent solutions for marketers seeking to increase and measure brand visibility in AI answers. She's previously led PR, digital, and product marketing teams across SaaS and climate technology. Leah, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Before we go any further, a quick pause. This is important. Your sales force is one of the most expensive investments in your company. The real question isn't who's likely to buy someday. It's who should be called right now to create the most value. Traditional propensity models tell you who might convert. Our prescriptive modeling, called COPA, tells you who will convert because you called them. If you manage a large sales organization and want higher conversion, bigger deals, and better use of every rep hour, let's talk. If you want your sales team focused on the calls that matter most, visit prescriptivemodeling.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session.
Thank you so much for having me, Guy. I'm really happy to be here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely looking forward to learning more about how the search engine optimization field is morphing. But before we do that, tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about yourself and what's your backstory on getting involved in AI and marketing.
Yeah. Prior to being one of the founders of Brandi AI, I led an agency for a number of years that was focused in the B2B tech SaaS space, where we did content creation, public relations, go-to-market strategy, product marketing, and digital. And then before that, I led marketing and corporate and product marketing for a variety of SaaS companies, as well as leading go-to-market strategy for Motorola Enterprises Emerging Markets division. So I've been living, breathing, eating, doing all of the things marketing around technology for my entire career.
Oh, fantastic. And so now you started Brandi AI. And so tell us a little bit about that and also then about these funky new acronyms AEO and GEO.
Yeah. So Brandi is a complete enterprise platform focused on generative engine optimization and content optimization for helping brands manage AI visibility and increase the number of times basically that they come back in the AI answers, which is kind of the new frontier of search, right, in today's day and age. Brandi came out of the idea that I was talking to customers and clients at my agency prior to this, and they started asking questions around, "Hey, how does this work that you're doing and that the team is doing going to help impact our visibility in search results around AI?" And about 18 months ago, the answer was, we don't know. And then what we started to figure out was, wow, yeah, we can really figure this out. And so I was able to bring together a group of folks who have extensive SaaS and technology backgrounds from companies like Add This, and DoubleClick and large agencies like Dentsu. And we all partnered up and we built this platform. So we were able to take, really sophisticated technology evangelists and people with multiple successful runs, growing software companies and building great product, and marry it with domain expertise around content marketing, PR, digital, and product marketing strategy. And we built this product.
Wow. Yeah, fantastic. And it is such an interesting and changing and evolving area. It's going to be interesting to see how this evolves and how we can really, like we used to be at the top of search engines, and now to be, so to speak, at the top of these generative engines. So now you've been involved in brand visibility, and certainly it's been changing like crazy. So,
Mhm.
and when you think about that in terms of PR and content, and of course now AI-driven search, so how do you see things fundamentally changing in terms of brand visibility today?
Well, I think there's a couple ways to think about it. One is that the way that a brand reaches a prospect or a searcher is fundamentally changed. So for, the past 20 years, everybody's been focused on, okay, what keywords are going to drive somebody to come to my site? And now the funnel is completely different because the funnel has collapsed and it can, if you're buying a pair of sneakers, perhaps it's in the sense of, you can have one interaction with ChatGPT or Google AI mode or Perplexity or one of the other platforms. And then you can come to an answer right away, right? And in that one engagement, in one session. So really the consumer or the prospect, whether it's a B2B prospect, is at the center of discovery, where it used to be that the brand could be at the center of discovery and have the upper hand because they could control like the search and they could control the complete message on their website when the visitor came. Where now many brands have perceived that they've kind of lost control of their narrative because the LLMs are returning that information to the consumer or the prospect if it's a B2B prospect, right? So that is a fundamental shift. And the way that digital marketers and marketers in general used to, quote, get found. It's GEO or generative engine optimization is a completely different approach. The cornerstone is, SEO still matters because you have to be indexable, right? You still have to have fast loading speed. The technical specs have to be there, but it's shifted greatly in how it is that you approach AI visibility versus traditional search results.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so don't the search, I don't know, the search content, doesn't it now change where you're asking more questions as opposed to, just putting in, hey, I'm looking for, I don't know, sneakers or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm assuming since you're an AI expert that you use a lot of AI, and I'm sure you've used these platforms. So, and your readers as well. So it's quite documented that the way that people talk to LLMs is extremely different than the way, like what you were just saying, than the way you used to just put something into the Google search bar, right? It is more intent driven. It's highly more directional. So you may say, hey, what are the best sneakers for someone suffering with spinal stenosis? My symptoms are A, B, and C, and I have pronation issues. Something like much more of directional guidance, right? Versus just, hey, give me the top 10 sneakers, spinal stenosis. So what ends up happening is because that's different, the way people search and the LLM's algorithms and the way that they read it, the content that people are producing, that brands are posting, influencers are posting on their behalf, needs to be different and structured differently as well in order to maximize its readability and be able to be summarized and returned in a manner that that the LLMs can parse and then return in a manner that meets the user intent of that search.
It's interesting. It takes a while, at least it used to, and I'm not an expert in search, but I remember, it takes a while for the search engines to recognize that you've changed your website or improved it for searchability. In a similar way now, if I've changed my website and the content of my website to improve it for the AI or generative optimization, then how long does it take before those changes start to be seen by the engines? Is that something that's overnight, or does it take a longer term?
So some of those things that we're talking about, like SEO fundamentals, still matter. So, for example, if you're not being indexed, then you can't be read, right? By like Google AI Mode or Google AI Summary. So that hasn't fundamentally changed. But what we do see is that if you have the right structure, technical structure, as well as the formatted structure of your content, once the LLMs can get to you, it's that structure that is attracting, and then it helps them to read it. So you were talking about like, back in the day, right? Bic pens probably has, like, you know, pen as the number one keyword, right? And nobody, if you got a startup pen company, getting the number one keyword ranking for pen was going to be an impossible task, right? So then we have like long tail keywords, and then you're like best pen for ergonomic means, or best pen for people that have carpal tunnel, right? And so you start trying to go more granular and have these like long tail keywords. But what's kind of interesting is that one of the things we see, and what I can only do is talk about all the data that we have and the research we've done, because we know these LLMs, they're very shut down on their algorithms. They're not telling you how they're doing it. So I mean, we've processed millions and millions of queries. So we look at the data, and one of the things that we notice is that once you start to build that credibility with these LLMs, and it may take some time depending upon how old your website is. But when I say some time, I don't mean like a year, like a domain authority used to take a year. For example, when we launched Brandi, we had it was a brand new website. We had a domain authority of 1, and there's no 0, right? And so we were able to, zero does not exist in the world of domain authority. So I was like, what is going to happen here, right? How long is this going to take? And within 2 weeks of us having
Hmm.
that content, and we were able to start showing up in answers of the LLMs. And then once that happens, they start to come back like faster. So we're not really sure why that is, if it is, and it's different across different platforms. But so I guess I'm sorry, this is a long answer to it. It can happen overnight, but it can happen within a couple of weeks. And that's pretty
Yeah.
cool for new brands. And that's
Yeah.
pretty cool for disruptive brands that want to overtake the person who's owned the number one keyword for pen for the past 30 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting and great example. And sorry, I'm just, as you're talking,
Yeah,
just
that's
questions
great.
are just coming to my mind. How has it changed? Let's say, and I'm a chat GPT kind of a guy, so, from 3.0 to 4.0 to 5.0 to 5.2, has there been a change in how you need to respond as a website and building content for any of those versions, or is it still kind of the same?
Um, so what I could tell you, we've had since we've gone live, we've had 3 upgrades of Chat GPT. We have not seen a massive shift in what works and what doesn't. However, I would say that, Gemini and the Google AI summaries and Google AI mode, they operate quite differently. And as we all know that, Google controls that search algorithm, and we don't have insight into it. So we have to constantly be testing. So, if when companies are looking for the types of technologies to power their GEO efforts, I would suggest that it's really important that when you're interviewing and looking at different technologies, that you ask them that very question about how do they manage model change. Because we all remember the days right? Where there was one change in the Google algorithm and everybody was playing catch up for a year. And so if you don't have an innovative technology partner who's keeping an eye on that and having those conversations, you could really get
Yeah.
sidelined in this early market.
Quick pause. This is important for any marketing leader. Marketing must continuously prove its value or the budgets dry up. Marketing mix models provide that proof in a way finance and leadership can believe. And we at ProRelevant help teams answer critical questions. Which campaigns actually worked? Which channels really moved the needle? And where should the next dollar go? With over 20 years of experience across complex marketing environments, we know how to deliver clarity, not guesswork. To learn more, go to mmm.prorelevant.com and set up a short strategy session. And now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I do remember those days when the
Yeah.
algorithms changed and all of a sudden you couldn't be found anymore. And then it took a while for everybody to figure it out. Though, one thing though that I've seen, and this is such a new burgeoning space, and unfortunately, marketers are getting things wrong and misunderstanding about how to optimize for these AI engines. So what are marketers mostly misunderstanding on this optimization process for AI answers versus traditional search?
Yeah, I think it's going to take, so there's certain, I think it's going to take a while to shift the mindset. So there's some people out there who are saying things like, GEO is just the same as SEO. And it's just not. I mean, I can't, you can say that it is, but it's just not if you look at the data, right? So that it's going to require a bit of a mindset shift. So for example, a classic SEO tactic would be, hey, this is showing up. I'm doing okay on search for this page. Let me optimize the heck out of that thing so I can, just get higher ranking on that one page. Where what you may see is it's not about the word as much as it is about the intent of the question. So you have to authentically approach your GEO strategy, your content strategy in a way that isn't trying to trick anybody, like that those traditional kind of black hat ways of like, okay, well, let me try to trick the algorithm. Nobody's tricking Google, right? It's just not happening. So and nor should you, right? Because if you're a marketer who's mission driven, who truly believes in their product, believes in their brand, you should be writing authentic, credible content, and also, come on, let's say it, creating authentic, credible products that actually meet customer demands and not just trying to make a buck, right? But as Pollyanna-ish as that may be, let's talk about authentic content. So if you are actually writing content that serves the needs of what it is that people care about and what the most likely queries are that people are searching for, you will be found as long as what you're doing is writing that content. And then the trick, which is not a trick, is just formatting it correctly and generating the right technical structure to back it up. So I guess the key to success is, one, create content and outbound programs like PR and other sponsored syndicated content that truly answer the questions that you think your customers and prospects have. And then utilize the right technology structure in order to post it to make it as maximized for machine readability as possible. And if you're not sure what it is that your customers' emotional triggers are, what those personas are, or you think but you want to validate it, there's ways to figure that out. Like in our platform, we have a very deep, intelligent listening layer that goes out and looks and hears and identifies and then analyzes according to the principles and fundamentals of how marketing and buyer behavior work. And then it codifies all of those recommendations, what those personas are, what those pain points are, and then provides you with recommendations about the type of content gaps that exist in your market and the kind of things you should write. And then gives you a roadmap to how you should write it, not writing it for you. We have a very conscious choice to not do that. But to give you a roadmap of how to write it in that workflow. So it's structured accordingly for maximum findability, readability, at summarization and return to maximize mentions and citations in the AI platforms.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just curious, so um, when I look at like the Google search terms, you get this
Yeah.
you get this list of all the search terms that were used to come to your site, and there could be thousands, tens of thousands of those different terms. Um, do you get the same thing now from ChatGPT and Perplexity, or is it still only through Google? And so then, how do you know what people are actually searching on?
Well, so the Google keywords are that's different. Search Console is different than what are the um, prompts that people are putting into LLMs. So even if when you see that, it's not really clear how that's referenced through Gemini, what you see in Google Search Console. But your question is a great one because the point is that none of these platforms are releasing volumes of prompts. Like they would say, hey, heart glasses, right? Or whatever it is. And they would tell you, there's 5 million people searching for Bic pens or for pens, right? Or heart glasses. You don't get that. So the question becomes, what do you target, right? I mean, that's the question. And so what we've done is like I was saying that we have this kind of intelligence layer that what you have to do is you have to consider what the most likely prompts are. And how you generate the most likely prompts has to be driven by something more complex than let me just put this into ChatGPT and have it tell me what I think are the most likely prompts, right? So that's something that's kind of our special sauce of one of the things about us that's very unique is that you're a marketer, you know how it goes, right? Like sometimes there's a lot of marketers who I assume this and then I assume that and then I assume that and it's because you have no other way to go, right? Because you have to start with an assumption. So what we've done at Brandi is it was so important for me and the team to say, how do we bracket out all that bias so that one, you can confirm if you're a product marketer or a marketer of some kind, you can confirm what you think you know and you can surface new opportunity. So what we built was this layer that says, I kind of like to think about it like a sourdough starter. You feed it a little bit of information with a tiny bit of context. And from there, all that intelligence goes out like out into the world and it identifies what is it that people care about? What are they thinking about? What are they talking about?
Mm.
And then it layers on a layer of how it is that's well documented. People talk to the LLMs, like you were saying, which is very different than they would talk to a traditional search engine. And then it generates those most likely prompts. So, because if you're just putting them in on your own, like what you think you know, then you have that bias in your head.
Yeah.
And the data you're getting back is not necessarily representative of the true universe of your market.
Yeah, interesting. So basically, what you're saying is we don't have access directly to what those prompts are. So I could be putting in,
Right.
best Bic pen or best pen for blah blah blah, writing upside down on a spaceship, and I wouldn't get that. And on the other hand, the marketer is over here saying, well, I'm trying to assume what people would ask, and that is also not correct. And then it sounds like what you're doing and I guess you're using AI to support that, is then trying to deduce in some fashion what really or how people are really asking those questions and putting those prompts in so that you have a better chance of coming up in the top of the result that would come up in Perplexity or ChatGPT or in Google AI.
Yeah, and it's a very special kind of sauce. It's a very complicated list of a complicated link of chain that is in the background that uses, not only how people talk to the LLMs, but an identification of like what are the psychological triggers for the pain points that they have and things like that then are able to generate those prompts. We also have a way of like testing these prompts and that kind of thing. So you can test them and see them like, okay, is this kind of good? And then adding them back in. So that kind of flexibility as this market evolves allows you to, these things are going to change and evolve, and there'll be more information that becomes available. It's 1992 for the web, except that it's probably going to go a lot faster than it took us to get to web 1.1. So you have to be able to innovate, you have to be able to adapt, and you have to really be passionate about advocating for brands and helping those who really care about differentiating and want to experiment, helping to empower them. And so, as you can imagine, it's been pretty fun for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's doing
absolutely.
this.
Absolutely. And my next question, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to ask it, but I was
Okay.
thinking as you're talking, so you have paid search. And you have organic search, and now we have basically AI search or GEO, or well, I guess that's the optimization side. Um, and what I've noticed, at least for myself, and I'm certain for just about everybody else, is when I put in some kind of a query, I look at the Google result that comes up and I go, man, that is so good. And it answers my question right away. Now, okay, I might ask a couple of follow-on questions just to make sure or something like that. And I'm no longer even going down to the sponsored links or the organic links or below that. So how does that kind of impact I mean, I guess that's a total change now in consumer behavior. So you have to be AI
Yeah.
first and be discovered on the AI side first. How does that now impact how brands need to look at the combination of the AI discovery versus the paid search versus the organic search? What's going on there, and where do you see that moving forward?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great question. So the click stream, like I like to be dramatic and say the click stream is collapsing, right? Because paid search now, I mean, it's just like not it's just not the same, right? Because of the way that it's architected in the Google experience. So, but it's no secret that all of the LLMs are going to be figuring out how to integrate paid search or paid placement within answers. So that's coming, and it's already being piloted and betaed by a variety of folks. So we expect that to happen. Expect it to happen very quickly. And once that happens, it's gonna upend what traditional paid search is. And I'm sure that those folks who focus on paid search, and especially the agencies, would be very happy if it happens sooner rather than later, because it has been quite disruptive. And then organic search, I'm an advocate of, you have to be GEO first with technical SEO fundamentals, because like you said, even if you go to Google, you're getting I think it's now up to 80% of the time, or 82% of the time, based on recent report, that you're getting an AI summary
Mm.
in response. And you're, like you say, you're not going to the blue links anymore. So if you're not optimizing first for AI search, even if you say, oh, I think ChatGPT is a flash in the pan and nobody's going to move to that type of platform over Google, even if you go to Google, you're still getting an AI overview. So you have to think AI overview or AI visibility first, and then technical SEO second. So I mean, that's my perspective. I obviously believe that very strongly, because I'm founder of a company that is doing
Hmm.
that, which is why we founded the company. So that's how I perceive the world. And I think that you'll also actually, paid search will make its way in, but I think that especially in some industries, you're going to start seeing people look to the domains and outlets. Back in the day, right? We used to do advertising in publications. What? Oh my God, that's gone, right? But that used to be the total basis of
Hmm.
the advertising economy. And what you might start seeing now is like people and brands, specifically in certain markets, potentially like around more B2B type stuff, or in consumer goods, will start to look at syndicated content opportunities and pay for that, or paid hosting of bylines and articles and sponsored content that's from the outlets and domains that have that are highly readable and considered credible by the AI. So we see this across all of our data set that there's certain outlets and media platforms that, regardless of the industry, are always cited. So, and they've figured it out, right? So they've figured out, they've partnered with OpenAI. There are some publications that have done that. So that can also be a huge opportunity to kind of upend this paid
Mhm.
advertising market. You know what I mean? What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah,
You
and
live and breathe this too every day. So what do you think?
yeah, no, I know exactly. Well, I'm just trying
Like
to
you're asking me
process.
all the questions. I should probably be asking you all the questions. So
Yeah, well, I'm nowhere near. I nowhere near have the knowledge base that you have in this area. That's for sure. But it's so fascinating to see how it's changed and what's generally been going on as our behavior has changed. And I know certainly my behavior. I go in first, and like you said, I think 80% of the time we're getting our answers from Google AI overview and not even looking down. I don't even know if I've clicked on a paid link or an organic link in the last 6 weeks, maybe even longer. I don't know. And
yeah.
so it's
Well, so
pretty
you
amazing
said
how behavior has changed.
yeah, and you said you're a chat GPT guy, right?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
what you said?
yeah.
Yeah. So something that's really interesting is when you look at like trust signals and uh, across the different platforms, and it's like what people trust. So I think over time, like I mean, we've been beating this to death, right? Around like the lack of trust that exists in institutions now, right? We all know that's happened over the past decade or so, or even more. But there was kind of a little bit of a lack of distrust, right, in the Google results, right? I mean, people are like, okay, well, is that paid, right? Am I getting that just because they're paying? But then now what we're starting to see is that in people really trust the answers they're getting back in
Mm,
ChatGPT. How many
mm.
conversations have you had with your friends who are like, oh, I asked Chat what the best place was to go on vacation where it's warm, where there's no whatever, or I asked Chat what I should do about my gut problems, and it said to do this. And you're like, okay, well, it's still a search engine, but that's really interesting that people trust so much. So, one of the things that is going to be interesting, I think, is when does the trust end? Which maybe it doesn't. Or what do these models do to demonstrate that they're trustful? Or that's not a word, but that they're trustworthy, that their
Yeah.
responses are trustworthy. Like Google has, guarded its algorithm secrets very effectively for the past 20 years. I mean, maybe it's not fair that people didn't trust the results because you never they really did lean into like credibility and like, is this real? And when people started doing keyword stuffing, they were like, you're out, you can't do that, right? So how do these large organizations and these technology platforms convey that they're trustworthy to the people that are using them? And that's, I
Yeah.
think, going to be a key driver of how all of this shakes out in the next few years.
Well, one thing I've noticed we with my own use of ChatGPT is that the answers come back and they are so well written. At least when you first look
Mm,
at them, the answers are so well written. You go, God, it's got to be right because it's written so well. It's not just a bunch of phrases or whatever. It's written incredibly well. So that kind of has this psychological, impact on the prompter that this must be trustworthy. Now, I will admit,
mm.
when you dig a little deeper and you go, yeah, this is really written well, but I'm not sure that that's right. And then, you go back to the sources and like you're saying, give me the citations of where you got all your data. And you then click on those links and you're reading those links and you go, this isn't right. It is actually incorrect. And it's not that ChatGPT was hallucinating. I don't think that was the
Right.
case. I think it was more just getting bad data input or data that you just don't agree with, and then regurgitating that now in a very well written response. I think as people use these more and more and they start to dig a little bit deeper and just to make sure that they really truly believe this, especially if it's, about something, you talked about I think it was spinal stenosis or whatever it was. And you really need to know that that answer is absolutely right before you're going to make a decision as to what you do. Then you're going to really want to know what those sources are and what those citations, whether they're actually believable or not.
Well, that's so interesting, like your perspective on that, because if I want to know those sources, and if people start to distrust and they start looking, not distrust, but they start to get a little more like eagle-eyed about the answer, and then they look to the citations and like you are saying, and they click on those citations, now you're actually getting increased traffic to your website through the LLMs. So like for example, most organizations have experienced at least a 30% drop off in site traffic over the past 18 months. And so they're like, what do we do? How do we get it back? And the question is now, I think the point is you're not getting it back. What you're doing now is you need to optimize within these answers because the funnel is collapsed, and you need to increase your visibility. And then you might see an increase in direct traffic and AI referral traffic from those types of citations, which then tells us that the brand mentions are important and the actual citations that people can then click through for referral traffic are also different. And so what's interesting about that is that, remember how when CTAs used to be in the upper right hand of the homepage and then at the bottom of a page, but not on every single page, right? You didn't have those CTAs on your blogs,
Right.
most companies. But now it's the blog that's being updated in order to fuel the narrative of the AI. And so now you're talking about restructuring websites in a way to capture and convert data on pages where you were traditionally never even thinking about doing that. It's so different than what we've been doing for the past 20 years. And it's, I'm excited about it because this is what I do all day and it's exciting. But I think it's really exciting for marketers in general and to evolve and be creative and think differently about how they're doing it. It's also really good for agencies who really, that market in general. If you just look at the numbers, it's like it's stalled out in general in the past like 5 or 6 years across most markets. It's not a huge growth market anymore like it was in like 2012 to 2016. So now GEO isn't just a lifeline for agency growth. I think it's actually it's going to fuel agency revenue growth because in a new market, brands
Mhm.
need the guidance of people who are living and breathing this every day. And there's a lot of work to be done to re-architect the digital experience for all of these brands. And who's going to do that? The services companies and the agencies. So
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of cool about how that's going to shake out in the marketing economy.
One thing you mentioned is that brands are seeing a decrease of, I think it was 30% over the last 18 months
Yeah.
in site traffic. And I'm wondering if because I don't know, maybe I'm not going to phrase this right, but because the LLM has moved that consumer further down the funnel, that 30% less traffic, the 70% is actually higher value traffic in those people that are looking for answers and then may end up be more purchase intent ready to be able to go off and buy
You
as
got it.
opposed to saying, hey, I lost 30% of my traffic. What am I going to do about it? When in reality, I got 70% traffic, which is significantly better.
I agree with you 100%. You hit the nail like right on the head. But when you're going in and you're talking to the CFO and they're like, what happened to our traffic? Why did it drop off? Right. So you better have a good answer when CMO when you're having that conversation. And so call Guy because he just gave you the answer, right? That drop off in traffic, it's just that the whole web and the surfing experience is completely different because that funnel is collapsed. And now
Mm,
I'm at the end and I've decided, okay, am I going to buy the New Balance sneakers for that or the Nike sneakers for this? Now I'm going to go instead of to the 10 websites with the 10 blue links and hunt around and try to make a decision and then read consumer reports, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go to New Balance, and then I'm going to go to Nike, and then I'm probably going to go to, consumer reports or the latest review to make sure that I'm right and to validate my choice. And so what we see across the Brandi instances of all of our customers is exactly what you're saying, which the traffic that is coming now, either direct or AI referral traffic, is converting at 6x what it did
Mhm.
18 months ago. So that, I mean, I'll take the 6x. If I've lost 30%, but my traffic that's coming is converting at 6x more than what that was, just do the math. The brands that are increasing their visibility in AI searches are going to be more profitable, they're going to have more customers, and they're going to grow faster. So there's your revenue impact that you can tell your CFO when they complain about the traffic drop off.
Right. Well, you know what would be interesting is to, and I don't know if you could predict it, but what would be interesting is to take what we really knew, let's say 2 years ago, pre-AI, in
Mm,
search and how people came to your site and did investigation and trying to gather information about this product versus that. And then now, as the AI instances have AI usage is now matured, and I'd still say it's relatively immature yet, but certainly it has matured. And taking that difference in consumer behavior versus what it was before, and then
mm.
try and look out, let's say another 2 years. I don't know if you could look out further right now, but look out 2 years from now and say, this is where we need to be able to win the day and not only get 6x, but maybe it's 10x. And that it sounds like what you're doing, and I'm really impressed with how you're looking at everything is,
Oh, thank
I
you.
think, you're perfectly positioned to be able to capture that 10x over the next year or two.
Yeah, I think that it is really interesting that I'm sure that there are agencies and who are looking at the heat maps of AI referral traffic and what that behavior looks like versus what it looked like in a more traditional search environment. And they're working towards that to do those projections because that would be really interesting. I'm sure that there's a lot of these more like innovative digital agencies that are working with big brands, big consumer brands that are looking into that, and it will be interesting to see how it works. I think that it again the agencies who can do that kind of work to look and to really partner with brands are going to be drivers of a lot of success for competitive differentiation over the next 2 years for the ones who get it. Because you're always going to have, you're going to have those folks who are like, well, I'm, back during the Industrial Revolution, they're like, okay, I don't, what is that thing, with four wheels? I'm getting on my horse, like that's it. I'm never getting in one of those, right? I'm going to take my sailboat. I'm not getting in a steam powered ship across the ocean. So, and that's fine. But I would suggest don't wait too long, or else, because those brands who don't try to do stuff with this AI, they will definitely lose share, right? And
Yeah.
but but at the same time, one of the things that we actually see, because you were saying at the beginning, I think like you could do better with that or whatever, and most brands could. But what we do see is that the changes happen pretty fast. So don't suggest that you wait too long, but it's not like, hey, I got the first keyword for pen and I'm established as the owner of the keyword for pen, and now I can't be leapfrogged. That's not what
Mm.
we're seeing. So one of the things that's also really cool is it's like if you do really good GEO, it can be a huge, it's like the
Yeah.
democratization for brands. The upstart can come and take on the pen company, right?
Yeah.
Are we
Well,
going
it's
to get
certainly.
calls from Bic after this podcast about like what's up with you guys in the pens?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, but it is kind of funny, but I think AI is again can be an equalizer of the big brand and the small brand because it's now, it's not necessarily that I've got that big presence, but it's how I'm able to structure my my site to be able to answer the questions that people are asking and want to get answers to.
Yeah.
We've got a break. This has been incredibly enlightening to me. My mind is just going crazy. I can't stop my synapses from firing here. But I do have one last question for you, and this one is about what advice you would give to an up-and-coming new marketer as they are getting involved in trying to break into marketing with this new competitor called AI.
So I don't think AI will replace marketers. It doesn't scare me. So I recommend that instead of this thinking about it like the sky is falling, like for Brandi, we don't write content within Brandi. And we don't recommend that you do that, just because a lot of it's slop and it's not indexable. So, but the sky is not falling, is what I would say. I would say embrace it, use it to be more efficient, and know that it's the way that people are going to find the work that you're doing. And so you can still be human, you can still be creative, you can still impart tremendous value with the beautiful brain that is human. So don't be scared. Look at it as an enabler, not a foe.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great advice, and I think you're so right. And you have to embrace it, and and think of it as your friend, and be able to leverage it to make yourself do better. Well, Leah, thank you so much. This has been awesome. So, how can
Thank you.
people learn more about Brandi and your company and you? Or where can they go to find out more information?
Yeah, well, you can always follow me on LinkedIn at Leah Nurik, but visit us on Brandi at mybrandi.ai. And then let's just get involved in the conversation. The world is changing, marketing's changing, and together as marketers, we can really make an impact for these brands, especially with all these new KPIs that will just elevate the value of marketing within these organizations. So it's an exciting time to be a marketer, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, and change is good, and so it leads itself to many new opportunities for us. Well, thank you so much, Leah.
Yeah,
This has been
thanks for
fantastic,
having,
and the
thanks for
website to
having
go.
me.
Oh, absolutely, and the website to go to just to make sure I have it is mybrandi.ai, and Brandi is spelled Brandi, so mybrandi.com .ai.
Yep.
Leah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And if you get a chance, go to the website, vote it up, give us 5 stars. This has been a great conversation and really eye-opening in terms of what we can do with AI search and AI optimization and generative engine optimization. Leah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.